That aspect leads me into the second question I told everybody that I wanted to talk to you about, and that was about the idea for a story, a book, and I want everybody to know that might be listening. Um, we could talk about like the copyright thing because I don't want anybody to steal the thunder of this, because this is such a great line and such a great thought. Um, and I'm going I'm going to ask, see if I remember this correctly, and I want you to talk about this, Tony, if you would, because this leads right into that aspect of being connected to life in this deepest uh, way. Because when you're on those runs, you're thinking, I just need to get out of here. I just want to give up, whatever. Um, but that sense that when you gave me a story, you told this in class, and here's why I remember this story. I'll give the synopsis of it. That in the future, we come up with a drug that will give us eternal life, and that drug has been invented, concocted, discovered, whatever. The caveats is that once we take the drug, those who choose to take the drug will be at the age that they take it, that they will become infertile so that they won't be able to have children. And the third thing is that they cannot die. Now, that's what I remember. But the stinger happened is that there are a number of people who choose not to take the drug because they feel that life has to be risked. There has to be an element of loss in order to feel the gain. So in other words, the reason that we find beauty or have beauty and love and truth is because that we have this ability or inability to keep it, to hold on to it. So some choose not to take the drug, and there was one individual who took the drug that found himself to be bored, to find himself to be that I can't stand even the birds to sing anymore because they annoy me, because I'm going to hear them next year and next year for all of eternity. How close am I on that thought?
No, that's pretty much spot on. I might have you write the introduction once this thing gets published.
I'm going to you put me on, man. I'm going to write the introduction to that book. Put me on. When you write it, I don't care what it is. Let me do the introduction.
All
I
right, well,
want to do that.
yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I will be featured on this wonderful book. This could be this is so good because there's so much there with that. But that's what I remember, and that stuck with me. Of course, we haven't been in class for 10 years. So that's what stuck with me that long of time, because I've dwelt upon that idea about beauty being that what makes beauty so precious is because we can lose it, and we do lose it. The reason that life is so precious is because we're dying. The reason that a day is so precious is because one day there will be the last day. The reason that the stars above us that we see at night, there will be one day that we won't be able to look at them. See it, and it's always the one day that you cannot take the run is the reason that you're taking the run now. See, it's all that beautiful, almost a shake me to wake me kind of idea. So yeah, I will write that introduction. So anything to add to that? What has been your thought on that? Or I don't want to say I've just stolen all your thunder, because I know that there's so much there about that.
Yeah, that was the premise. That was something that was definitely. I wish I could remember what started that idea. Um, I've always been. It may sound a little crazy, but like I can remember being 6 years old and being fully aware that I'm not going to live forever.
Hmm.
I just always thought about death and there's going to be an end to what I'm experiencing now, whether it was in a
Mhm.
microcosm, like this school year is going to be over, this is going to be done, or in terms of a lifetime. And
Mhm. Mhm.
when I was thinking about that idea and thinking about, what does it really mean to live forever, and what are the consequences of that? Because it seems to be we are obsessed
Mhm.
with extending life,
Mhm.
especially when we're close to the end of it.
Mhm.
And that's a very, I think, primal reaction to the unknown. And maybe it was that discomfort that I felt. Then I thought maybe I should think through why I'm afraid of it and why it's a good thing that I do die. And
Mm. So you were actually starting at the end and working yourself back.
I think so. I think that's really what had started, just as a thought process, just thinking through this primal fear we all have and why it is necessary, and almost finding a way to be comfortable with it. And
Interesting.
I it's but yeah, that's the story, is basically that. And it's weird now because uh anti-aging technology has grown a lot in the past decade since I had that idea, so that makes it even more pertinent. And some
Yeah.
of it's good, a lot of it's, working to cure Alzheimer's, working to cure cancer and things like that. And there's this underlying thing of, trying to live as long as possible. And what
Mm.
I thought in writing that short story, and what I'll eventually work through as something longer, is, the people that chose not to live forever, why? And as a contrast, the people that did, what was their experience like now that nothing was precious?
Because you started at the end. That's interesting for me how you got there.
Yeah.
Because it was the idea that no longer is anything precious. And that then revealed to me the truth, that the takeaway truth, that the reason that something is precious is because it does go away. This works in everything almost. I mean, I've said in teaching the class in the philosophy of love, um, you will love the one that is able to walk away from you. You won't love the one that just constantly keeps on coming back. That's been a truth that is I've seen in different places, different writers. I know that um Khalil Gibran's the prophet writes of that. He talks about that um that that love is something that passes away, or love is something that will take you through its paces. So too beauty. Truth is the same thing. It's these deep ideals of life take us through our paces to the point that hmm, unless unless we're able to understand the loss of those aren't powerful. They lose their power if they're constantly there. It's like, if there was no such thing as falsehood, then truth is, it doesn't matter. If there's no such thing as the loss of love, then loving somebody daily is not, who cares? I mean, they'll be around for the next 15 years. I mean, it just takes away everything that is vital. and going back to the wild, you know, it's that sense that all of it's almost a sense of urgency, not a neurotic sense of urgency, but a sense of urgency nonetheless, that makes everything happen. That if I don't do this, we're going to end. So I'm going to do this because there will one day that I'll have to end. So I'm going to enjoy this now because, you know, I won't be able to do this forever. And that was the man's problem that that took the drug. He knew that he could do this forever, and so nothing was, you know, like he would go on the run with you and say, well, yeah. Yeah, I always wondered, you know, about whether he would get tired, whether he'd get hungry, or whether he would like try to starve himself, and he never could die. I mean, it was just like,
There would
yeah,
definitely, I could imagine, you know, creatively, there would definitely be scenes and instances of people trying to end it after a while and not being able to.
God, man, so
And
good.
that's almost being hell, you know, you can't escape from it. You can't get out of it. It's like that. Did you ever watch, I'm sure the, what was that old TV series? Every episode was a different crazy thought, idea, dream. Twilight Zone.
Yeah, yeah,
There's an episode, this thief, he ends up, you know, he was robbing a bank, gets caught with the cops. He's in this hotel, this casino, he wins every time. He opens the drawers, there's money in it. And eventually he's just going crazy. And he asks the lady that's there, he says, why? I shouldn't be here. I should be in hell. I'm a horrible person. She said, what makes you think this is heaven?
yeah.
Yeah,
It's that
hey,
that
spoiler alert, it was 1950.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
no,
don't
it's
want to ruin it
called,
for
I
anybody.
think it's called The Other Place.
Yeah.
Because he winds up in this apartment and everything that he asks for, he gets.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's the he gets tired of that, because they even say, I heard this on somebody was talking about this recently, and they said that he comes up to the person that is supervising him, excuse me, and he says, because he's a gambler, he wants to lose, and it comes back, well, we can make this happen, you know, we can set it up that you can lose some games. He said, no, that's not what I mean. He said, I really want to lose. He said, well, you can't. I mean, what do you mean lose? It goes down, I'm wrapping my mind around several themes here, several works. That's the thought behind Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, when Mustafa Mond is talking with John the Savage. Have you ever read that book?
No, I haven't.
Sometime read that book, because it ties into what you were thinking on that. This philosophy of, how could I call it? The philosophy, well, I'll call it, from Brave New World, the right to be unhappy. That the unhappiness is actually much needed, but in any way, the Brave New World, they have this happy pill, and they take the drug, and of course it is the one that causes them to be satisfied with whatever they're going through. And there's a group, they're called the Savages, and they live outside of the civilization in a place called, well, it's just the outer land, you know. There's this one character called John the Savage, and I think he has this argument with Mustafa Mond on the right to be unhappy. He said, and I might be butchering the line, but he says, I want sin, I want pain, I want to feel what it's like to live. And he said, you want the right to be unhappy? He said, yeah, I want the right to be unhappy. I want the right, you know, to feel alive. You have to have the sense of the you have to have the sense of that death could come. That's really interesting for me.
There has to be struggle.
There has to be.
has to be, and that could manifest in many different ways, but if there's no resistance, there's no growth. There's just,
Yeah.
there's no reason to develop and grow and become if something, if you are not, if there's not an adversary, if there's not some kind of resistance somewhere that you're
Yes.
working against.
Yes. The
There's just no,
obstacle, yeah, the obstacle is the
no.
way. That was from Marcus Aurelius. That sense of struggle is what makes life what it is. And I know that doesn't sound cheery. It doesn't sound like it's helpful at all. I mean, I would never walk into a hospital room, so I've come here to cheer you up. I'm sorry that you're going through all of this pain and suffering, but without suffering, there will never be any happiness. I'm glad you're suffering right now. I mean, there's nothing you can offer that there's no gentle way to put that, is it? I mean, but it's so true. And I don't want to be the person that's feeling good right now and looking back and saying, I really think that the struggle is the way. I mean, I'm not making fun of that, but I find myself to be a bit cautious when offering that, because whenever I'm feeling good, I don't want to. I'm free with that term, but whenever I'm going through a struggle myself, I'm thinking, "Ugh, I don't know about this." I want the ease. I want the calming. Yet it's the crutch, isn't it? It's the crutch being kicked away. It's that you're lying flat on your face now. Let's get up. Let's go.
I think that's all part of it. Yeah, like you said, when you're feeling bad, you're not thinking what a heroic struggle I'm facing. This is good that this is happening. I lost this person, or this is this is good. I'm feeling good about this. But it's the fact that you don't feel that and you feel hurt, that the
Yes.
good feels good. Because
Say that again.
the pain is what makes the good feel good.
That's it.
And if you
That's
didn't feel it in that moment, like because it's not pain if you can talk yourself out of feeling bad. If it's something that's really,
yeah.
struggle and hurt, that's just a reality of this duality we live, that if we do not have that, the good will not feel as good. And
Yeah.
just on a less like dreary note, sort of back to what we were talking about earlier, chilling on the couch and watching TV doesn't feel as good as running for an hour and then chilling on the couch and watching TV. It just doesn't. You have that frame.
That's good, isn't it?
The frame of reference shifts completely when when you have been going through some kind of struggle, whether like on a not as depressing thing, just going out for a run and coming back.
Yes.
You just feel it changes your perception of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if during those down times we could convince ourselves we felt good, then those aren't really down times. And then the good wouldn't exist.
That is good.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful.
But it's just like the dying and not dying.
Yes. Yes.
If there was a way to take away the fear of dying, well, then everything else would just be dull. We wouldn't be attached to that ephemeral part of existence, like trying to capture these moments. It just wouldn't matter as much.
Mm-hmm.
But
I was just it's just interesting on that. It's the struggle. The struggle makes, as you said, lying on a couch and watching television, it's not half as good as going for a run, then lying on a couch and watching TV. It's like if you take a hot shower every day, right? But let's say that for most of the days you take a swim in cold water. You take a swim in a lake. They've been talking about the beauty of that. Then you go and take a warm shower. It feels so much different. Everything's about that. That's a very
That's right.
interesting line. Yeah.
And well, with humans, it just goes back to, what we've been talking about. We are in some ways very complex. In some ways, we're not as complex as we think we are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very basic thing, our experiences in that way. Like,
Yes.
just back to the caged animal, a dog that's been running around playing all day is going to sleep a lot better than a dog that's been in the house sleeping all day.
Yeah.
And it's just a very basic thing. And we complicate a lot, but I think it's just really down to it. Because I know I didn't invent the idea that living forever might not be a great thing, and that the reason we enjoy stuff is because we die. But that's, I think, something that when put into context of reality, like playing it out to its logical conclusion, it can definitely have a cathartic impact thinking it through.
Yes, that's the nuance that you added. That's the philosopher, that's the wisdom part coming in. We're back to the three, the wonder, the why we've been talking about, but adding that wisdom part into that, because you're thinking through this. You're thinking, what is the truth here? What's the gold? What's the value? And the value is to think, what would that be like? Because there has to be a lesson here. It can't be just like, yeah, living forever would be boring, and then you just kind of end it. No, living forever would be horrendous. It would be so disconcerting of the mind, so unappealing, at least to those few who saw wisely what the end result would be. Because they don't even know at the beginning, they don't really, that's the interesting thing about in Brave New World, the savages and those who are within the civilization do not come together. They don't talk. They're at odds. And I'm wondering if you have that sense, that duality, not in the strict sense of duality that they don't ever correspond, but there is always going to be the group that says, I'm going to take that pill, and I'm going to lie on that television. I'm going to lie on the couch, and I'm going to watch the television, and I'm going to take my hot showers, and I don't care about the struggle. I'm not going to have the struggle. I'm learning nothing from the struggle. I'm not going to go out to the woods. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to be right here. I'm done. Forget about it. And then that becomes they'll never, and I'm back to Khalil Gibran's about love, and he talks about where love passes away, but I'll use it here. He says that you will laugh, but not with all of your laughter, and you will cry, but not with all of your tears. So you will live, you'll breathe, you'll exist. I mean, you'll be, quote, alive, but you won't be alive, if that makes any sense. So it's like, seek out that pathway that enables you, empowers you to see the struggle, so that you can recapture what makes life beautiful and good and true and wonderful that it is. That's cool. That's very cool. Tony, any closing thoughts on that? Because I know my mind, as always, it always goes just in 1,000 different directions, and I could keep on talking about that. And of course, we don't have the time, but draw us back in for a close. What would you have us remember, if I could ask you to go so far as to say that, or offer that, what would you have us remember? What might be the question that you would have us to ask ourselves? That's Tyler's great contribution that I remember one time that he asked in you, Tyler. You asked about what is that great question? Do you want to address that and then turn it over to Tony on that, the power of the question there?
Yeah, absolutely. So just real quick, with the whole enjoying of life itself and the struggle, and that makes me think of Thich Nhat Hanh, a monk who said a great gardener can not only see the flower when it blooms, but when it's still in the compost stage. And so that's really wonderful, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so just, what's I guess to ask the question, what would be a suggestion that you would have for someone to leave here today and to think on, to put in place, to try to make their life better?
Wow, that's that's a profound question. Honestly, and this goes back to, I spent 5 years as a physical trainer. That's another thing I did for a while. With my master's in history. I don't know how that happened, but
we've all been there, Tony.
Yeah.
Man, we roll.
I would say, honestly, people underestimate when you get to a certain point, because we've talked a lot about getting outside and getting into the wild was a big part of what we talked about. And a lot of people, because of where they are right now, they underestimate what they are and who they are and what their lineage really is. And we think of the 30,000 years ago, the people that drew those paintings on the cave, that you're that person. You are that thing, the same thing. You're just in a different setting. And it may seem like climbing Everest to go out and walk in the woods for some people. But I think I would just start with, you are capable and are a lot more than you probably think you are right now. And to let the curiosity of that lead you to something that you would give you fulfillment and value.
That's beautiful.
Because everyone's got something different that makes them tick. And a lot of times people are held back by what they already consider themselves to be. And sort of similar to the seed and the flower, you're a seed. You can be a flower, but you got to give it time. See what gives you value.
Yeah. And don't be locked in with that. You got to see what you are. I think that's beautifully said. Say it one more time, just for even my thoughts. You were talking about the cave painters, and you said you are that great.
Yeah, we are the same physically, just scientifically, the same thing that those were. And those are your great grandparents. I mean, that you are that. You may feel very far apart from that, but if you just allow yourself physically to express what you're naturally capable of, you can unlock a lot of that freedom and a lot of that joy that they probably felt in their day-to-day life.
So good. You are that. You are that. That's beautifully said, man. Thank you for that. Thank you for your contribution on that. Thank you for that great question, or thank you for that great idea for people to live through. I'm going to be living long with that thought. That has really inspired me. Tony, thank you. Thank you for showing us wonder, wisdom, and the wild today in such a beautiful, extraordinary way that only you can do. And of course, as always, you're more than welcome back on any of the podcasts and any of the times of taping. Come in just as a participant. It's always great to see you, and it's great to see you today. And I thank you for your time.
Well, the feeling's mutual, and I definitely appreciate you all having me on, and it was a lot of fun. I definitely would come back anytime. And I do want to say, it's been a while since I had your class, And I'm sure this is true for a lot of people, but that was definitely a watershed moment in my life, taking your courses. And
Thank you for that.
if you, and I'm sure you may hear this a lot, but the way you viewed philosophy and the way, it's sort of like I was joking about the chemistry professor, you turned me on to it. I did not study philosophy before you. And that's something I've carried with me the rest of my life. And had I not taken your class, I probably would not have gone down that path. And I owe a lot to you and the way you sparked that in me. And I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm glad I had a way to inspire you, and I'm proud of I'm proud of you and all that you've accomplished, and thank you for that compliment. I receive that humbly. And I so very deeply appreciate your insight. You're a great thinker and a great artist, and you've given a lot of people that will be listening a great amount of thinking. And I will do that introduction on that book, and I'm going to have you back on. We'll talk more about that, because that's been a great time. Thank you for that, Tony.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Okay, blessings to you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too. Thank you.
And everybody, this has been the Darren Newman Dialogues. As always, make it beautiful. See you next time.